Ho, ho, ho! The Nuggets return to Christmas. Does that mean that the Nuggets are going to be a marquee team this season? Plus, speaking of schedule, what should Nuggets fans be hoping for when the schedule does come out this week or next? All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making this your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join folks like No Name is God, Joshua M., Carlos Romero, Damjan is in here as well. Snail is hanging out with us. Lots of folks in here hanging out in the chat. Thanks for joining us on a Monday. Back with you this week. It'll be me and Adam this week before Adam heads to Serbia next week with DNVR. Make sure to check out that awesomeness over on the DNVR channels. Adam, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good, well rested. It's a big week for me, man. So well rested, overwhelmed, probably gonna fall behind.
Nice. I have a new bookshelf. I'm very excited about it. I gotta get some signage up and fill it in. I need something Denver oriented, so I'm trying to figure out what to put up there. I do need something Denver oriented. Oh, I do have one thing, which is she moved it. My wife.
The bear?
I have the bear. I'm very excited.
Perfect.
I love the bear. So the blue bear from downtown. All right, on today's show, we're going to talk about all things schedule today, which is funny because the schedule actually isn't out yet. My understanding,
we'll get a full schedule breakdown probably Wednesday. When do you think the schedule's coming out?
Well, I'm trying to figure it out because I think Stein indicated, was it Stein or somebody else indicated the week after next, but so much of the schedule starting to leak, I think they might be pushing it up. If it does come out, it'll be Tuesday or Thursday. If it comes out this week, I think it might be next week. If it's next week, I'll do the full rundown on the show. If it is coming out this week, I think it's probably going to be Thursday. It's usually Thursdays, I feel like. That's when it should come out. But we already have some details starting to leak out, as I mentioned, including, that's our top headline subject for the day. Denver Nuggets will be returning to Christmas play after a not super awesome game 2 years ago versus the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson. The Nuggets do return, in fact, versus their, I wouldn't call them rivals as of yet, but a team that they have some angst against in the Phoenix Suns. They will be playing on Christmas Day. My expectation, Adam, it's possible. No, it's not possible. Let me take that back. They're going to get the late game because the only other game that's got a West Coast home date, because Lakers are going to Dallas, right? The only other team that has a West Coast date, so it would have to be a Mountain or West Coast team to fill the late slot, and the only other team is the Warriors, and they're going to get the 3 o'clock versus Ja. So I'm expecting the Nuggets to play at 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Are they getting the 3 o'clock? So I thought it was Knicks' first game. Lakers Dallas, I heard, was the second game. Bucks Celtics is the marquee middle of the day game, and then Warriors after that, and then the Nuggets the night game.
It'd be very strange. I'm trying to imagine doing a Dallas game that early in the day.
I mean, Celtics Bucks is the marquee game. Like, say it's a rivalry. They're two of the top 4 teams in the NBA. So it makes sense to me that it would be the 2 o'clock game or whatever.
I would tell you that I expect it to be Grizzlies Warriors because the biggest pull on the card is either the Warriors, the defending champions with Steph, or the Lakers with LeBron. So I'm expecting one of those two teams to get the 2 o'clock game. That's what I'm expecting. And we'll see.
I just heard it was different, but maybe my source on this one is I don't know if they're right or wrong on it.
So you're hearing that it's going to be the
Lakers are the second game. The Dallas. First of all, kind of funny. Lakers are at Dallas. I just kind of like when LeBron has to travel for Christmas, especially to Dallas. Like, not even It'd be one thing if he was traveling to Golden State or to Boston or something, but like to Dallas is just funny to me.
Yeah, it should be great. I love that they're putting Luka in that kind of spot, though.
He deserves it.
Now, I will say, look,
hot take. I think that's a fun game. Like,
Yeah.
everybody wants to know, is it two juggernaut teams? Probably not. Like, I don't think either of those teams are really contenders in any capacity. But LeBron and Luka, big game performers. It's a good head-to-head. Like, it's sort of, the MVP of yesteryear, the MVP of tomorrow. So I think it's actually a pretty fun game I'd be excited about if it's not going up against the Denver Broncos.
And what's kind of interesting is, if we talk about like the historically iconic franchises, there are franchises that have been iconic in like the modern era, and I think the Mavs actually qualify. They've been good basically since Mark Cuban took over in the early 2000s. Like they were competitive in the early 2000s and that mid 2000s run, won the title in 2011, had a few years down, and they're back with Luka. So like that, they're a pretty, I would say they're one of the flashier franchises over the last 20 years or so.
I don't know if I agree.
I think so. I think as an outsider.
But regardless, it doesn't matter. Luka is among the most popular and entertaining players, so he'll be there.
So you're hearing that the Nuggets would be the then
nightcap.
Yeah, then you're still with me on
latest.
You're
game,
still
yeah.
with me on the Nuggets being the nightcap. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, playing the Suns, it's a big spot. If everybody's healthy, which it's 2 months in, so who could say, should be a pretty big game. What are your feelings on the NBA returning to Denver for Christmas?
I love it. I think that's a great game. If I were to power rank all of the games on the slate, Bucks Celtics carries the most weight and is the best teams. Will it be the best game? It'll probably be the best finish. Those are really two really good teams, and it'll come down to the wire. I don't find either of those two teams in the regular season particularly fun. Like, they're grinders. I think that'll be like a 95-93 game. But nonetheless, it's a great matchup. Like, it's a super competitive with star players and a good one. So that's probably the number one game. Denver-Phoenix might be number two. I think that might be the second best game on the slate. Two very entertaining styles, star power, very good teams that are likely to be in the top half of the playoff standings by Christmas. I think that's going to be a really, really, really fun game. And I think the NBA, Jokic wins MVP. It doesn't get on Christmas. It was a big deal. I think they had to put Denver on this year. They just had to. And I think now you can look back at it and say, do they want Denver on Christmas every year? Probably not. But last year they just had to make the plan of, hey, they don't have their guys. We're taking them off. This year they have their guys. They found a place to put them in. And Phoenix is as good as anyone. I don't know if there was a game I would have preferred. There's games that would have been equal, but I don't think there was a game that I can look at and say, oh, that would have been a better game than Denver-Phoenix.
Yeah, and like those games have actually been pretty good. They've hung with them. I remember Denver beating Phoenix early in the season last year, back before everything fell apart. And so like there's all these kind of opportunities. I think it's a good showcase, right, of the two-time reigning MVP versus Booker, who is like at least on that list. Chris Paul, a legend. We'll see. There's a possibility that's also Kevin Durant. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think
it's think about that. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at it, the only team that the two teams he could potentially go to that are not on the list are, well, I guess three: Pelicans, Raptors, and Heat are not on Christmas. Right. But you got the Celtics, which is another potential candidate. And you got the Suns there. So look, I think it's really fun. I'm hoping that the Nuggets get up for this one.
Yeah.
Their experience in these big primetime spots has been less than ideal. Sure. And I don't know I don't know how to parse that down given the roster changes, right? Because like the 2019 team is so different than this one.
Right.
And the 2020 and 21 team are so different than this one. So I'm not sure how to parse it, but hopefully
you can parse it this way. It's Jokic. He doesn't always get up for the games that don't necessarily that mean this type of thing where they don't. Does this game have any meaning on their season? Not really. I mean, other than you're measuring yourself up against a team that beat you a couple of years ago, but it doesn't. They lose it, they win it. It's not going to affect their season that much. It's just the showmanship aspect, and Jokic traditionally hasn't gotten up for the showman part of his job.
This is not just anecdotal either. No Name is God says, I was looking at Nuggets record on Christmas games, 1-6. We have to get a win this season. Thanks for pulling that. No Name is God. Appreciate that. And why, David asked, why do the Knicks continue to play on Christmas is strange. Does anyone really care about the Knicks? It's market.
Yes.
It's just market.
Does anyone care about the Knicks? Yep.
It's
A lot of
market.
people.
It's just market. Like a lot of this is just market dynamics. Like I'm honestly a little surprised Chicago's not on the list, just because Chicago typically, anytime Chicago's decent, Chicago gets a spot. So, I think they did a better job this year of kind of showcasing the fun, good teams. Having the Nuggets on there. I'm honestly stunned that the Grizzlies are not only on there, but they're playing the Warriors. I have a tweet that aged terribly in which I said there is zero chance that Memphis is playing the Warriors on Christmas
Ooh.
because I was like, it's not a big enough market. They're putting they're putting one of the major markets versus the Warriors on Christmas. The Clippers aren't on there. I thought that was strange.
I think it's the Clippers aren't on there. The Heat aren't on there, as you mentioned. Yeah. The Raptors I kind of get, even though it's a big media market or a big market. But yeah, the Clippers one is interesting to me. I think they get the Brooklyn Nets treatment, which is we don't know who's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
West has a lot of good teams. We had to cut somebody. What team is most likely to not have marquee guys available? Definitely the Clippers.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the question. Look, the Nuggets have returned to Christmas. Does that mean that they're going to be a marquee team this season? We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, it's that time, friends. Oh, yes, it's that time. It's time for me to tell you about Built Bar. If you haven't tried the Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys, and the new one is absolutely phenomenal. Delicious, indulgent cookie dough in these perfectly sized little bites covered in chocolate. That's right, Built has done it again. The cookie dough chunk puffs
might be my favorite one, by the way.
It's so good. Have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. They're only 160 calories, and they've got a whopping 15 grams of protein. Not just any protein, collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently, and it provides tons of health benefits. You get to eat something that tastes amazing and is good for you, and they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they're healthy and tasty. It's chocolate covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just want to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your first order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making us part of your day and your first listen each and every day. Back here with Adam Mares on a Monday. Adam, the Nuggets are back on Christmas, which is a pretty big spot. Everyone's expecting them to be very good. Their win total is pretty high this season, though everyone's saying they want the over. So the question becomes,
are you seeing that? I honestly haven't seen that, so that's a new detail to me. People taking the over?
Yeah, there's a lot of this is solid. I'll just tell you, I've bet it 3 times already. I bet the over 3 times already. I may not be betting them. Yeah, I'll just go. I should go ahead and. Yeah, I already bet them to win the title. I gave in. I bet.
You did?
Yeah, I went ahead and did it again.
Oh man, so it's not happening again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Can't be helped.
Tough break for us.
Did bet the Warriors several times last year, so I don't necessarily know that holds true. But I bet half the teams in the NBA to win the title based on price, so I wouldn't take it as necessarily a jinx. But the question is, do you think that Denver's going to be a, quote, marquee team this season?
I don't think they're going to start the season off as a marquee team, and I don't think that the schedule is going to I think the schedule will reflect that. I think the schedule will come out, and it'll be a little disappointing how many national television games there are. Probably closer and in line with Memphis and New Orleans and Dallas, and probably below Dallas. And I think that'll be a little bit of a wow, okay, Denver's still not quite the draw of some of these other teams. But I think by the end of the season, they will be. I think by the end of the season, the Nuggets are going to be looked at as one of the fun, good, and interesting teams. So this is the year. I think this is the year, though, the tide turns on all of that, and it won't reflect in the amount of games they get on television, but I do think it starts here.
I'm on the opposite, where this is a pretty big indicator to me. If you're one of the Christmas Day teams, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And that means that you're probably going to wind up facing a lot of the big teams in big spots. I would expect them to be an MLK Day team. There's a lot of MLK Day games, but I would expect them to be in one of the more prominent positions on there. I think they'll probably have a marquee game either Wednesday Thursday or Friday of opening week versus one of the big teams. I don't think
I agree. I don't think it'll be the first day though. I think so.
No.
Usually it's like Tuesday, right? Is the opening day?
Yeah,
So
Tuesday's the opening day, and that's going to be. I think it's already reported.
It's like Lakers. I thought.
Warriors.
Oh, that's Wednesday. That was or Wednesday or Thursday was Lakers Clippers. I think the first one. What was it? Lakers Warriors. Yeah, Lakers
It's
Warriors.
Lakers Warriors, and I think that they haven't figured out who the Celtics are playing. The Celtics will play somebody. I'm betting it'll be. I'm kind of assuming it'll be the Bucks with
Again
with Giannis. Yeah,
isn't that the Christmas game?
they sometimes
I don't
double.
know if you make it both. You don't make those both.
They sometimes double dip them.
Really?
If they think that that's like the marquee, if they think that those are the two teams in the Eastern Conference, and I think that they'll think that going in, might be Embiid. Could see that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think 76ers have a better chance with.
Yep.
Who knows? Maybe Miami or something sneaking in.
We'll have OKC Orlando probably on Wednesday of that week. They like to put the rookies 1 and 2 versus each other. And then I actually think that the Nuggets might wind up being the marquee game, honestly, on Wednesday. I could see them being the late slot Wednesday night versus one of the top teams.
Dallas or something? Could you
the
see
Clippers? The Clippers,
yeah.
One of those type of teams.
Yeah, it would make sense that they would give the Clippers their Thursday marquee game against the Lakers. They'd make it a back-to-back for the Clippers. That would make sense.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then, if not then I think Friday. Probably. And I actually do think that they're going to be on national TV quite a bit. And one of the reasons, one of the reasons that I actually kind of think that is based not only on Nikola Jokic winning MVP twice in a row, but Jokic's performance in the All-Star scoring. So in the front court, Nikola got the second most fan votes behind LeBron last season.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And
right.
this is also really, I didn't even notice this. He got the second most player votes, too. That's actually really surprising to me. So that reflects a certain level of popularity. I think from the league's perspective, there is kind of this idea of, look, maybe he's not going to be LeBron or Kevin Durant or even Luka, but he is a 2-time MVP, and everyone really enjoys watching him. Like, he is a player. And I do think, it's funny that you mentioned that you think they're going to be a little bit under the radar. I don't think so. I think the hype is starting now. I think the hype is burbling. I think that for a while and then now everyone's kind of gotten in, now that the offseason has ended and we're into just the dead time, like the free agency has ended, and teams are looking at it, and I think that there's starting to be, everyone's kind of looking and going, man, Denver's roster's loaded. Like, they get MPJ and Jamal back. Jokic is this good versus where he was 2 years ago. They've got Aaron Gordon now. They add KCP and Bruce Brown. Bones is really good. I think that there's a real palpable burble of hype for this team, and I expect them to actually have a pretty marquee schedule. That said, there's ups and downs to that, right? Like there's high points and low points. A lot of it will depend on what their approach is in those games. It'll be interesting because from a securing seeding standpoint, those are oftentimes the games that I tend to circle as like the least important. Because
right.
If anyone that's listening to the show, just going through it, division games, home games, teams versus they're under 500. You win those and you're going to get a top seed. You just will. You're going to get a top 4 seed. But I also think there's something to be said for Denver in their position to be able to make a few statements this year. I think there's something to be said for that.
There's a couple things working in their favor here. You mentioned division games. I mean, Minnesota's good and Portland's good in terms of both being good and interesting. So Denver probably get those games when Denver plays Minnesota and when Denver plays Portland are probably good candidates to be national televised games, just because they're interesting. But let me ask you this one, because here's how we can really deduce this. Let's go just Western Conference, because we know they set the schedule often like East Coast game, West Coast game. What are the teams out West that are a lock to have more nationally televised games than the Nuggets? I think Lakers, Warriors, automatic locks to have more games than the Nuggets. I think the Clippers too.
The Mavericks?
And the Mavericks too. The Mavericks and the Clippers. I think those 4 teams are going to have more.
Memphis will be an interesting one because them putting Memphis on Christmas. I also I think it's very weird that they're. If there's, I understand why, because it's like Jaw's so spectacular and everything. But
Nope,
I'm also
that's not why. Nope. I don't
What?
think that's it. Josh spectacular, but is he like the league is full of spectacular?
I would say that Ja's one of the most spectacular players.
Is he
in
more
the league.
spectacular than Damian Lillard?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah, I think so.
Come on, man.
Style of play. I'm talking about style of play, not how good he is.
I
That's
know,
difference.
but Damian Lillard goes off for 50 points like somewhat frequently. 40.
I
40
agree.
points,
I
50
think I think he's a way better player. I think he's a way better
No,
player.
but I'm saying that's the spectacular is that Dame is just like he has big games in him that I just feel like if you're just asking the casual fan, like what are you most excited for? I don't know. I just think those guys are like the
This is
equals.
a great question. I'm going to put this on Twitter after we get off the show. This is actually I think this is a really good question.
Like who is what game gets you more? What player I guess gets you more excited to watch? Anyway, I don't know if Memphis is. I do wonder if that Memphis will be more. By the way, my reasoning. I'll probably talk about this a little bit more later on today, but the reasoning is that Ja Morant, the NBA overvalues Twitter more than any other league. They just overvalue the social media buzz. And Ja Morant created a social media buzz with his rivalry with Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And the NBA is like, look at this. Twitter, 1 million impressions. We have to put Grizzlies on television. It's the dumbest thing in the NBA. Is so predictable in that specific way.
Memphis was also the 2 seed last season.
Hey, sure. Marquee team against the 2 top teams in the West. You're right. Memphis, Golden State. We got 4, but hold on. Phoenix. Is Phoenix going to get more or less national television games than Denver?
God, that's a good one. Yes, because of the market combined with how good they are.
So Denver is at best 6th most national television games in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think, but something to consider here too, and David brings this up. This is actually, I think, is the best way to indicate how much of a marquee team they're going to be. David says the ABC games in the second half of the season are the really big games for me. To my knowledge, I don't remember Denver having a Saturday night game. I don't remember them.
They have them, I know, just because we did. Actually, you want to know what a Saturday night game was? I'm pretty sure Denver, Oklahoma City was a Saturday night one because we had our party bus.
But that wasn't on ABC.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, the television.
They added that in as part of the new television package, is the Saturday night ABC marquee games. And those games are honestly awesome. They're always really good ones. I don't think I like them better than the Sunday matinees just because I have an attachment from my youth to the Sunday matinees.
Right.
But for atmosphere, I think those Saturday night games are awesome, which is why it's always a shame that so many teams are like, yeah, we're resting. No, not gonna take it seriously.
Saturday night, you're right. The crowds get to be all out for Saturday night.
So I'll tell you, I think Denver gets a Saturday night marquee game this year, whether they're on the road or not. I think
that'd be great.
I think that's a good indication of where they'll be in the standings. Let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the schedule and what Denver fans should be hoping when that schedule comes out in terms of the structure of it, because believe it or not all schedules are made equal. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us, making this part of your day and your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. You can join Omar, who's hanging out in the chat again. Omar, what's up, man? Glad to have you back with us. Tommy's in here with us. Tommy, what's up? Hurricane joined us late. Lots of good folks in the chat. Make sure to join us. Check out YouTube. Subscribe. Give us those 5-star reviews. Need a 5-star review. Help us out. Let's get this train rolling because the Nuggets are worth the hype. All right. So the schedule's going to come out later this week, and the schedule. There's a number of things that I make like my thing to get me through the long NBA season. And the playoff race is obviously one of them where I'm doing magic numbers, and obviously MVP, which I just started talking about this week, and everyone's like, why, Matt? Why are you talking about MVP in August? And I was like, I was just talking about the race. All these types of things. But the other one I do pay a lot of attention to is the schedule. And in my experience, the schedule makeup is not even because now you're not going to, everyone plays the same teams, right? For the most part, there's a handful of teams in each conference you'll play 4 times versus 3. For the most part, you play your division opponents 4 times. You play everyone else in your conference 3 times, except for like 2 teams, and you play everyone in the other conference twice. And that's how the schedule comes out to 82. What's interesting is you can have easy starts and tough starts. You can have easy finishes and tough finishes. The last week of the season, I think, determines a lot depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I think January is a month that I tend to circle for looking at what the schedule looks like oftentimes. It can obviously shift, and this is the key here, is if you're a skeptic of this kind of approach, you're like, well, look, you don't know what these teams are going to look like. A team may look easy now, and then you get to January, and, oh, no, that's a really tough game. That team's, it's Cleveland last year, where it looked like that was a total cakewalk. And instead, Cleveland was a really good team back in January before the injuries hurt them. So there's always kind of ways to look at it. And I think one of these things is interesting from the perspective of, do you want the Nuggets to have an easy starting schedule and then it gets tough later on? Or do you want the Nuggets to have a hard schedule up front and then they get to rest more later because they're facing an easier schedule and they can rack up some wins as it goes along? What do you think is we've talked a lot about the idea of starting the season fast, so I'm curious to get your thoughts. I'm very firmly in the camp that the Nuggets should hope for a soft landing into the season, that the first 2 months are pretty easy so they can rack up wins before it gets into the meat of the schedule.
I think I'm there as well. I think there is an advantage to having just an easy schedule. As you mentioned, the less pressure, you get to kind of maybe play some combinations and experiment a little bit more, rest a little bit more, all of those things. So I think I'm with you. There is an argument, though, to be made that the Nuggets will be better as the season goes on. And if the schedule did get softer as the season went on, that you might be able to like really rally and peak going into the playoffs. So I guess in that one way, I would say softest months, I hope, would be October, November. Then you kind of hit a hard patch maybe in January, February, and then you have a soft landing. So sort of a soft, difficult in the middle, soft at the end as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I hate that this is the truth. We talked about whether or not they're going to be a marquee team. If they have a lot of teams, if they have a lot of games on national television, which they honestly could use just because their fans still can't watch them, those games are often back-to-backs. This is the dumbest thing about how the schedule is constructed. It makes me insane. You build up, you're like, we're going to have these two great teams meet late in the season. I would be like, we need to give all these matchups 2 days off before. Like, let's try and pinpoint a number of these and be like, we're going to give them 2 days off before this Saturday night game or this Friday night game. And instead, the NBA is like, sorry, going to need you to play Friday and then Saturday, less than 24 hours later. Right. It drives me insane. It just drives me absolutely bonkers that they do this. But because of the schedule and arena constraints, that's how it often works. If you have a lot of national TV games, you're going to have a fair amount of back-to-backs. That's just like how it works. Now, I'm expecting the back-to-backs to be back down to where they were pre-pandemic this season. Right. We're back on a normal schedule. So they should be able to get this thing back down under double digits, which will be great for everybody. And no more 4 and 5s. That should help a lot with everything. So there's ways that this works out, but I think the rest schedule also matters here for Denver. What would you say is more important, an easy landing or a smaller number of back-to-backs, especially given Denver's pretty strong performance on back-to-backs throughout the recent seasons?
I don't want back-to-backs. So whatever takes away from that issue. I mean, that's the worst part about Denver, about their season, is the early on especially, they're going to have to rest Murray for those back-to-backs. So anything to take that away. I mean, here's the thing, though, Matt. Here's something that I think should be stated. Early on, every team is going to be good in the NBA, minus about 4. Because I think that this year, more than any, has fewer tanking teams. Sacramento right now we think is like the 11th or 12th best team in the Western Conference. They want to go to the playoffs. So like they're a good team. So I think if you get all of those teams, the Sacramentos early on, you're going to get a very good team. If you get them later on in the season, you might start to get a little bit more tanking there, especially with Victor W. So I think in the broader point is, this isn't a league that now has 15 good teams and 15 bad ones. The schedule's probably, I don't know when we look at this that we're going to say, other than home and away, I don't think that we're going to say, oh, this is look at that month. It's so easy. I think you'll say it's easier than others, but you're still going to have tough teams. The Atlanta Hawks, mixed in there. Brooklyn, which we don't even know what they'll look like, but that's a tough game. Like, we'll still have a lot of tough games in every single month.
And then before we get out of here, just really quickly, when we look at kind of like how this makeup goes, I do want to ask you, there should be 6 games versus a Western Conference non-division opponent 4 times. 6 games, right? They usually try and do it 4-2 for the good teams to bad. They don't want to give sometimes they do this. They gave the Lakers this last year trying to boost them up. It was really funny. The Lakers' schedule was so easy last year after their schedule the last 2 seasons, and it didn't matter. It was one of the big indicators last year that the Lakers were, and I didn't heed it enough. I was still like, well, it's LeBron and AD. Right. A strong indication that the Lakers were just going to be bad was that they had a really soft schedule to start, and they still wound up they were under 500 right. and struggling that first month. I'm expecting the Clippers, the Suns to be 2 of the teams that they'll face 4 times. The Warriors, they'll have to go to Chase Center twice. So those are the type of teams where that's how you fit in those marquee games, is they'll probably wind up having those types of games. That's how the schedule works out, is you'll face a number of teams in extra time, and those are the games where you'll kind of slide in. Do you have any other thoughts on the schedule before we get out of here?
I'm excited to see it. I'm curious to see what they do with Brooklyn. I'm just curious to see where they have Denver. What are the other marquee games, by the way? You have opening week. You have Christmas. You have the MLK Day. What else? Am I forgetting anything? And then the Saturday stuff. What else are we looking for in terms of marquee?
To a small degree, there's usually a pretty good set of games the Thursday before All-Star. That's usually a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
I believe Denver. That was the Milwaukee.
No, this year it was, I think, Lakers.
Yeah, no. I was saying. I was trying to remember when it was that Jokic had the first half triple double versus the Bucks.
Oh, okay. I don't think that was right before. So it was after the trade deadline or right around the trade deadline. So yeah, that would have been around.
Oh, it was actually Sloan. That's where it was, because I was at Sloan. That's when it was. So. That's basically the schedule. Is it's opening night, opening week, Christmas, because the NBA basically just goes away until Christmas, and then MLK is a big one. All-Star, the game before All-Star, and then those marquee March games is really where those are that's how you define the teams that are kind of on TV being showcased the most. That to me is how it goes. So either way, let's if you're a Nuggets fan, hope for a manageable schedule to start the season in terms of miles traveled and back-to-backs and things like that. And that's what to look for with the schedule. We'll be back this week with more episodes. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Subscribe and give us 5-star reviews on Apple. Follow us on Spotify. All the like. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you guys again later this week for another episode of Locked On Nuggets.